Welcome back, my friends. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and with me is Chris Anonymous. And today we are talking about David Lynch's 1977 cult classic, his first full-length feature film, Eraserhead. If you're watching this live, please come talk with us, hang out in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube down the road, or you're listening on Spotify, it's a long show, and if you want, you can skip around in the program. You can check out our various segments, which are the Web of Schlock, the good, the bad, and the schlock, where we talk about what we like, what we didn't like, and what we think are the big ideas in these films. Skip around, find what you like. Don't hurt my feelings. Chris, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good, man. I'm excited.
You just had a very long trip that you got back from yesterday.
Yep. And we're right back at it here doing our thing.
Right back at it. Since you were on the road for so long, you were able to stop off where I am, and we were able to actually watch Eraserhead together, which is a very rare treat. I'm really glad that we watched it together, because this is a movie that I feel like I would not have enjoyed had I not been able to watch it with
friends,
close friends.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So, yeah, you're a David Lynch fan.
I am,
correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you have not seen Eraserhead before.
Yeah,
right?
Surprisingly enough, it was one of the few Lynch films that I had not seen. So
why is that?
One of those ones that, like, it's a cult classic. Like, yeah, eventually I need to see it, and then you just never get around to it. There's always something else that comes up. So
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I've never seen any David Lynch movies, and the reason is because I'm kind of an idiot, maybe slightly dyslexic. I've always gotten David Lynch confused with David Fincher.
Okay.
So and it's just at the tip of my tongue. I'm always in danger of saying David Finch. But
which
so
is the hybrid version of the two.
David Fincher, and also a highly acclaimed director. So people like kind of talk about them in sort of the same way. Mm-hmm. Probably the same circles of people maybe talk about these two Davids, right?
Right.
And then also they both like have directed music videos. And then also there's the movie Dr. Strangelove, which is also a cult classic that is in black and white, that is made by a famous director known for making maybe some weirder things, and again talked about within the same circle of people.
So you just get all that confused.
Yeah, I'm just a mess.
That's awesome. Now I want David Fincher to do a remake of Dr. Strangelove.
Oh man, that'd be great.
In the style of Lynch, yeah.
But so David Lynch unfortunately has passed away, and that's why we decided to do this, because it's like, hey man, I've never seen a David Lynch movie. People are talking about him, kind of looking back on his film legacy, and I was like, man, maybe it's time to get on the Lynch train and see what it's all about. He was born, January 20th, 1946. And he unfortunately passed away on January 15th, 25 this year. So just 5 days before his 79th birthday. Is that about right?
Yes.
So just a interesting little factoid.
Yeah.
So Eraserhead, his first full-length film. He had done a short film prior. He'd been working on some other projects prior. This is kind of a somewhat of a student film. He spent what I saw. I saw a few different numbers, but it looks like he spent about 5 years making this movie, which is really interesting considering that the main character had to keep his hairdo that way for
a long time.
He's like, yeah, man, I just rock it.
It
looks like.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say it's interesting with him working on it for 5 years. Makes me think of the Peter Jackson when we reviewed Bad Taste, because again, that was like a 4-year endeavor. It seems like a lot of these writer, director, author, filmmakers, their first film is really a labor of love, and you can tell whether you like the movie or not. You can tell like the intent and the effort put behind it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love. I was reading that prior to doing this, Lynch was a painter. Now I don't know how long he did that, or if he was like considered a professional painter or not. But it made this film make a lot more sense to me, the way it looks, because every shot in this looks like a painting. We can talk about that a little bit later, but I was like, oh, this seems like something a painter would create, someone who is more tuned in towards the visual. So it cost $100,000 to make. When it was first released, it got a small release. It made only about $21,000, but now it says it's grossed over $7 million. So I would say that is a pretty successful film for something that is so odd, so narratively odd. Interesting enough, Sissy Spacek, who I believe that's Carrie, right?
Yep.
Yeah. She and her husband helped finance this film to keep it going over this long 5-year filming period.
Hence the special thanks. Got it.
Yeah. Yep. Nice. I was very confused when we were watching that, and I was like, wait, was Sissy Spacek in this? But nope, she's just the money.
Right.
She's just the money behind it.
Bam.
So I was trying to do my due diligence and learning about David Lynch prior to this and what to expect. And I heard that his films are like being on hallucinogenics.
Most of them. Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, that's totally accurate. I mean, we can kind of talk about it when we get into Web of Schlock. I can talk about some different movies of his, and yeah, it's a very fair description.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, the way we do the show is we talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock, what we like, what we didn't like, and then we talk about some big ideas in this. I have a theory about what Eraserhead is actually about that we will talk about in our schlock section. So stick around, because I think I have what I think is the definitive answer after thinking about it for a day.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So, but before we do all that, we like to look at who's involved in these films, where they came from, and where they went. In a segment we called Web of Schlock. So, Chris, there aren't a lot of people in this.
No, I think.
Tell me about David Lynch and the folks in this.
Yeah, we'll start with the main actor and actress, and then we'll move to David Lynch and kind of finish it off. The main actor, who had such a cool haircut in this film, so stylized, Jack Nance. He was in a lot of David Lynch films after this: Dune, Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks. But he was also in some schlocky movies. He was in The Blob, the '80s version.
Oh, love that.
Yeah, he was in Ghoulies. So, and then the woman who plays his girlfriend in this film, Charlotte Stewart, she was also in Twin Peaks with David Lynch. She was also on Little House on the Prairie, and you might have recognized her from Tremors and Tremors 3.
Tremors and Tremors 3. Is she the mom of the kids in Tremors 1? I don't remember her.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
Okay.
She played Nancy. She played Nancy in Tremors and Nancy in Tremors 3. Back to Perfection. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Tremors, perfect movie.
Yeah, Tremors, so good. Someday we'll we'll get to it. Such a good movie. And then we have David Lynch films: Dune, Blue Velvet, The Elephant Man, Twin Peaks, the show, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, Lost Highway, Simple Story, Mulholland Drive, and then tons of short films, just tons of short films and music videos. Blue Velvet is one of the first ones of his I saw. Also, I guess a movie called Wild at Hearts. And those are both kind of 80s. In Blue Velvet, Dennis Hopper is just bugged out crazy in such a good way. It's kind of like David Lynch's take on a noir kind of film.
Okay.
Wild at Hearts is this weird kind of crime romance with Nicolas Cage. Another great movie. Let's see. I think Mulholland Drive, again, kind of that crime noir, which again, Twin Peaks. So, I mean, there's this recurring theme. But Mulholland Drive probably has one of my top 10 openings, just visually, cinematically of all time. It's just so cool. I really enjoy that entire movie, but like,
so
it's just such a cool thing.
Is Twin Peaks, is that the movie with The Rock and there's like some twins with telekinetic powers or something, and they're like trying to escape from... Oh wait, that's Escape from Witch Mountain.
That is Escape from Witch Mountain.
Never mind. That's why I've never seen any David Lynch stuff. Like, that looks like it sucks.
Oh yeah, no. But it's also interesting because in A Simple Story, Richard Farnsworth, who we saw in Highway to Hell,
okay,
he just plays an old man who's riding a tractor to go visit his brother, and it's perfectly normal. There's nothing weird about it. It is a simple story told straightforward, pure narrative. And so it's interesting to see that, like, if Lynch had wanted to, he could have told just the most basic story, but like his style really shined through, and there are other directors that I'm thinking about, like Tim Burton, that's more of in a commercial way, but just that they really put their imprint and their style on everything they did. So yeah.
When you see it, you can tell that it is this director.
Yes. Yep, for sure. And there are not as many directors, or at least they're not as well known today that are doing that have that kind of impact. So it was cool to see this bit of movie that I was missing from the catalog of what I've seen. So
yeah. Well, Eraserhead has definitely made an impact. Stanley Kubrick loved it. H.R. Geiger loved it. Said it was like the best movie he'd ever seen. But he's a weird guy too. So take from that what you will. So yeah, let's move into the schlock. We're doing this a little bit different than we normally do. Normally we start off with good and bad, but we want to get into the meat of the show, some theories, what the big things that stuck out to us. So if you're watching, jump in the chat and tell us what do you think this movie is about. We will give you some time to type. But the way I want to start, Schlock, is Chris, you said that you weren't sure exactly what to talk about.
So, what's Schlock? Most of the movie. It's also Arthouse. There's this, when it's a surrealist kind of cinema, it's hard for me to digest it all with one viewing, because you take it in differently, right? So with a good old schlocky movie, it's usually a really simple story where the zombies are here and you got to get from point A to point B, and you're just listening to someone tell you a story, right? Whereas this is like you're walking around a museum with like installations of people acting out symbolically weird different things, and you've got to do the work, right? You've got to make the connections yourself, if there are even connections to be made, right? So it's a stimulus overload, in a way. Like,
Mhm.
and you're like, okay, that was weird, but did they do it just for the sake of being weird, or does it mean something? And if it meant something to them, does that necessarily need to translate, or were they only wanting it to provoke thought in me? Right.
Mhm.
So, not to get into the good, but it's beautifully shot. There are just great shots
Mhm.
and lots of imagery. Some of it really beautiful, some of it really grotesque, some of it shocking. Uh, and it doesn't feel purposeless, but I also don't know what its purpose is. So it's like, I don't want to be like, oh, this is what it is. I don't want to dismiss the film, but I also can't say what I truly feel about it because I don't know yet. I would have to watch it again, but it's also not something that you can put on, you know,
It's not easily consumable.
it is not easily
I've
consumable.
I've
Yeah.
heard things like this described as, right, this is a 5-course meal, right? It's a steak dinner. It's not a McDonald's hamburger, which is
Right.
mostly what we get from mainstream
Right.
entertainment.
Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with either of those, but just know what kind of food is set before you and how to truly enjoy all the flavor profiles instead of just gobbling the cheeseburger and swallowing it.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and what I said after we watched it was that I was disappointed in it because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be,
Hmm.
but I liked it more than I think I should have for what it was. Which I don't know if that makes sense, but it did spark an interesting question in my mind of uh, the movie. I mean, one of the reasons it's hard to consume, and one of the reasons I would say like maybe I don't like this is because it's just too vague in some senses, right? Like it's not easily given to you what exactly is going on, and
Hmm.
it is left to interpretation. So much of it's left to interpretation. And the
Hmm.
thing is that I love music like that. Like two of my favorite bands are Tool and At the Drive-In, and they have lyrics. Mars Volta, they
Yeah.
have lyrics that are so weird, and you can like kind of hone in on what's going on, and there's
Hmm.
people giving their theories about them and things like that. But really, a lot of it is left up to your interpretation,
Hmm.
and I love that in music. But for some reason, that doesn't always transfer over for me to film or other types of art. And I think that's probably pretty similar for a lot of people. And I just can't help but wonder why that is. Is it just because we're just so used to like film should be this way?
Yeah.
Should be like an A to B story?
I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah. I also think that sometimes art house cinema and surreal cinema gets a bad rap of like, oh, they're just putting weird stuff on the screen and it's just look at me do this. And some of it for sure is that, there are bad actors in anything, right? It's very, what's the intention? Um,
Mm.
but also there are ways of expressing things that you really can't express any other way, right? And they're
Mm.
not usually mainstream things, but the whole idea of imagery and surrealism and that dreamlike quality is to evoke something other than just a simple story. And so it just gets I think a bad rap in today's age because it's a little more difficult. But again, the bands like At the Drive-In, they were never crazy huge. I mean, they're
It's
amazing, but it's like a lot of you're not going to hear them next to a Taylor Swift song, right?
Well, I would argue that Tool is pretty big, and you can hear a Tool Taylor Swift mashup that's pretty
Tool
awesome.
is like one of the exceptions that proves the rule because yeah, but even those they really require repeat listens to really tease out some of the nuance and in their
Mhm.
lyrics and in their thing. And so again, I've watched a lot of movies like Eraserhead. Fondo Elise from the 60s, which is a Jodorowsky, who was going to make Dune. Very, very similar, black and white, set in a dystopian world, just full of strange, provocative imagery. In Eraserhead,
sorry if I can interrupt. When did that come out? Do you know?
Fin de Elise, it would have been in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How popular did it get amongst like cult classic things?
Later on, it became bigger. It was lost for a long time.
Okay.
But other movies by him, El Topo and Holy Mountain, both were big in the cult cinema. But also, like, there was a lot of French cinema. Jean Cocteau, his Orpheus, Blood of a Poet, which Beauty and the Beast, and some of those were from like the 30s and 40s.
Okay.
Up into the 50s and 60s. But with Orpheus specifically, I believe that there's an homage to it in Eraserhead with similar tile shapes on the floor.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's very iconic. But again, it's slower, and some of those had more narrative, some didn't. But it's that black and white, not always black and white, but a lot of times it was just strange imagery. And, it's not really a scene in the idea of like something happens, is more of like a scene of like some continual action is going on, and it doesn't need to move the story forward as long as it provokes you, makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's just it's hard for me to really judge this film only having seen it once.
Well, when we were done watching it, my kind of overall assessment of it is, I was like, yeah, this seems like it was made by an art school weirdo. Like, this looks like someone who just went to art school and made a film, and that's what it is. Now, so our friend Michael, right after we watched it, Michael, he's been on the show before. He's helped us with some various filming projects. He was like, why is this film popular? It's in the Criterion collection. He's like, what's the point of this? Because he's very, very frustrated with it. And I was thinking that, like, well, I think the reason for it being like one of the films that you have to see is precisely because of that, but more so because it was like the first art school film, right? Like, that's where when we see film student films now that are like all super artsy and it feels maybe like style over substance, and they're just trying everything. I think maybe that came from David Lynch, because somehow he was able to catch lightning in a bottle in some ways of okay, he's a painter prior. He took in ideas from poetry, like very beatnik type stuff, the surrealism, and he was able to put that all together in a way that resonated with that crowd of people. And then from there, people were like, I want to recreate this. I want to do my own thing and take in my own styles and put them in.
It felt, having seen it this late in from when it came out, it felt very 90s to me, like 90s Arthouse and 90s music videos. Like, I was thinking of all the like industrial music videos. And again, a lot of those were David Fincher. I think he drew a lot of visual inspiration and stylistic tricks from Eraserhead. Like, you could tell that people who were making movies, whether they were Arthouse or not, were influenced in some fashion by Eraserhead.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
I think it's important because it's the first. It's not the first weird movie, or it's not the first expressionistic movie by any means, but it's the first movie to like catch that crowd, to catch that zeitgeist, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of the movies that I'm referencing were well before this movie. So I mean, every once in a while, every 10 years, every 20 years, you have someone do that kind of movie again, right? And it captures a whole new crowd of up and coming people. It's also subversive, right? There's also something fun about liking something that makes other people uncomfortable. Right? It's not this. It's not quite the same as pretension, but it's just like, oh yeah, that's weird, and I'm weird, so I like this thing, and you don't like this thing, so you're not part of the cool club.
Yeah,
and that's
you're not in the crowd.
Yeah, that's probably not a good attitude to have, but it's a realistic thing that happens.
Well, so do you think it's pretentious?
I don't know.
I think it's a fair question to ask.
It is a fair question to ask
for art like this.
Yeah,
I hesitate to even call it like movies, film. It's art. I really feel like it is.
Yeah, it's a film as opposed to like a movie. I mean, I'm just making these distinctions right now, but like it feels like a movie's just like, yeah, you get some popcorn and you hear a story, right? And like a film is like, it could have a story in it, but that's not its main goal. So right. I'd have to watch it again to know if I thought it was pretentious. But again, that's part of the whole idea of intention and the influence it has, right? So I think that a lot of student films that came out after this that were aping this were definitely pretentious, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that this source material was pretentious. I think David Lynch had a unique vision and a unique style, and was very, at least it comes off unashamed of like, no, this is who I am, and maybe it's pretentious, maybe it's not, but it's me.
It was honest to what he wanted to make.
Correct. And if you really like art or that style of film, that doesn't necessarily make you pretentious. It just means you have a different taste than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so after we watched this movie, I was like, man, I'm going to need to get on the internet and
right.
read up and see what this is about. And I think I have some answers.
I would love to hear your theory.
Well, so I have to put the caveat to this theory in that this is something I think the intention behind this, like the music we were talking about earlier, a lot of it is up for personal interpretation, and that is more so the intent of the creator, right? Like it might mean something to them, but they're specifically making it for people to interpret on their own. Because I mean, one thing you got to consider about art, or really any type of communication, is that like once it like leaves your brain, like once it is put out into the world,
your intention
is up for interpretation.
Yeah. Your actual intention is almost a moot point once it goes out into the world.
Right. Like it's how people receive it.
Yeah. You hope you're not misunderstood, but in reality, that's almost futile.
So that's just my caveat to this, is that it might not be what Eraserhead is at all. David Lynch was very secretive about what the movie was about. But here's some things that I pieced together through Wikipedia.
There we go.
the all-knowing source of knowledge. But so this is something that we had talked about while we were watching the movie, was that it's very dreamlike. And that's when we get into good later, that would be one of my goods about it, is that it portrays like dream logic. I think we've talked about that on the show before, where things don't necessarily make sense, but you can like kind of follow it through.
Yeah, but it still feels right. Like, doesn't make sense, but but for some reason it works.
Yeah. Now, I think he said that the whole, I'm guessing the movie is named Eraserhead because of what I would call the Eraserhead sequence, where his head pops off and it gets taken to the pencil factory and gets turned into pencils. And
they touch the eraser. Yeah.
Right. So he said that was based on a dream that he had. And so there's that piece, right? It's a dream. People have analyzed this and said that it is about a fear of fatherhood,
which I can see that. I don't know if I agree that that's what it's about, but I can totally see that.
to me, it seems maybe it would be, I can see that in there, but it seems maybe like more a fear of motherhood because the mom leaves, his wife leaves, and he's sort of left alone. Maybe that's the fear, is right. You're inadequate to like take care of a child. So
Right.
being a single father or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's part 3. I just want you to keep these in mind. And the film he was working on prior to this, it was going to be, I think he wanted it to be a full length film, but it looked like it was turning out to be like 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Garden Back, and it was about a gardener in an adulterous relationship or something like that, or he was lusting after another woman, and it would have been adulterous.
Mm-hmm.
And his lust was represented by I don't know if this film's been made, so I think this is what it was supposed to be, but his lust was supposed to be represented by a bug in his garden that kept growing larger and larger and larger. And then he scrapped that project in favor
of Eraserhead.
Okay. And so I think that we can agree that Eraserhead has some pretty like sexual or erotic undertones.
Yeah, there are a lot of there are a lot of overt sexual images.
Some overtones.
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, and a lot of the theme and what it deals with, with the consequences of desire.
Well, when we were watching the beginning of the film, we said something about I think you said it. Is this a movie about the dangers of premarital sex?
Oh, right.
Because like you got to get married so you can take the baby home from the hospital.
Yeah. After that crazy scene with the parents,
which I love. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, the father was so hilarious. Oh man. Which we'll have to get into that, but go ahead.
Yeah. But so as I was reading about this, I saw something that caught my eye, and it said that David Lynch had read a verse from the Bible, and it brought all the pieces together for him for the film, and like encouraged him to keep on creating it.
Okay.
And he said he doesn't remember if it's from the Old Testament or New Testament. And so, but that immediately made my ears perk up. And I'm like, well, what is it? What can I think? Like, is it Genesis? Because it has, something to do with like creation, right? There's the planet and stuff. And my mind went to the book of Job, just because like there's just such weird, crazy imagery in there, and it's somewhat like cosmic horror in a way. Like you get very surrealist with it.
There's cosmic horror in this film for sure.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then speaking of godlike imagery, there is in the very opening scene. I believe he's called the Man in the Planet.
With the cool looking dude with the levers.
Yeah, he's got sores all over, and he pulls levers, and things happen.
Yeah, it feels very Greek god.
Yeah, I thought that imagery seemed very godlike to me. Like it's a painting you would see of Zeus or something,
or Mars, right? Yeah, doing something. Yeah,
right. So I went on this little quest to see like, well, what verse of the Bible is it? And of course, because everything's up to interpretation, there are many verses listed, but I was looking through them, and there was one from the book of Job, which I was like, oh, for me, this actually brings it all together.
Okay.
So I'm going to read that real quick. Job chapter 17, 13 through 15. He says, if I say my bed will comfort me, my couch will ease my complaint, then you scare me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I would prefer strangling and death more than life.
Oh, okay.
So there's this idea, and looking into that verse a little bit more, which who knows if David Lynch did or not, but the person he's talking to, you scare me. He's talking about God. And so God is sending him in dreams like these nightmares, essentially, right? Scary visions. And Eraserhead is regarded as a horror because of all of the body horror stuff in it, all of the weird, uneasy imagery.
Yeah. Again, there were levels of Cronenberg in there as well. Yeah.
But so we've established that there is quite a sexual nature of this movie. And so
Yes.
my theory is that this is a movie about a nocturnal emission. It's a wet nightmare.
Okay.
And so the reason for that is that whole opening sequence where we have Henry, he's positioned in the screen weird.
Right. He's very cosmic. He's a cosmic entity in the beginning.
I think that's setting us up for sleep. His eyes are open, but I think he looks very similar to when he's laying in his bed. He lays in his bed through a lot of the movie, and the baby. I'm not the first person to think this. This is all over. It looks like a spermazoid or whatever the technical term is for it. But so that's like a baby from like purely from just the man's input. Right. Like it hasn't like gone and fertilized and turned into like a human. It's just purely the male side of it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Let's see. Filmmaker Daniel Clemens says it's a baby from hell.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong for sure. But so that is my interpretation, my theory of the movie. I think like if you look at the image that's behind us, I think that has a very I'm not trying to get us kicked off YouTube here, but Seminoid
no, I get it.
Look about it. And right the end, right, he finally hooks up with the woman in the radiator, and it goes to white. There's these weird sexual undertones of like women always coming onto him at like very like not only inappropriate but unmotivated times.
Well, like when the mother tries to kiss him.
Yeah. Well, when her whole thing at the table while he's trying to cut the chicken fist.
Well, and the chicken itself is very could be construed in a sexual way. Like,
absolutely.
But I want to talk about something slightly different. It all ties in, but as you're talking, what I'm really thinking about, again, to the dreamlike quality of everything, but I want to talk about the dystopian nature of it. Because I think when we were watching it, I'm like, is this post-apocalyptic? And you're like, I don't think it's post-apocalypse, but I do think it's like post-industrialization, like to such a degree that like humanity is definitely taken aback, right? You go work for the machine and you punch in and you do your thing and you go back, and it's all very dirty and mechanical and industrial, right? And when you look at societies that have that, what it is it's taking humanity and taking it down to the level of a robot or of a number, right? Like you go in and you do your whatever job you're assigned, and you go home and you sit on your bed and you do nothing, right? And you might talk to somebody and you might not, and you might bring one bit of grocery home and you put that away and you have the one record you're playing, but there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of nothing, right? And so what happens in societies like that is a divorce from action and consequence. Like what you do, it doesn't matter. Like you're just going to go in, you're going to punch the clock, you're going to do your thing, and you're going to repeat. And it's very cyclical, right? And when reality forces you to that mundane rote, that repetition of just the same. Consequences really don't matter. Your actions really don't matter. And that's where it really starts to become dreamlike, because if nothing matters, right? If it's just the same thing day in, day out, well, then your perception of reality changes, right? So you're just going about like in a dream.
Yeah.
Right? You're just going
You're
through the
sleepwalking through life.
You're sleepwalking through life. And
Yeah.
so what I think is going on in this film is a man has been sleepwalking through life because of this post-industrial dystopia that he finds himself in. And then all of a sudden, especially with the mutant baby, and the girlfriend who he's supposed to marry, and everything is starting to have consequences. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So real life is starting to like, wait a minute, just because you're sleepwalking through this horrible nightmare of a industrialized dystopia doesn't mean that you get to escape the reality of that your actions have consequences.
Of fatherhood.
Of fatherhood, of marriage, of he was with his neighbor because she came on to him and showed up, and then they were together. And then he seems almost jealous when he sees her with another man going into her apartment.
Right.
Just even the idea of jealousy, right? That whole idea of like, you do something and something's going to happen because of that. And you're going to feel a certain way because of that, which will start to wake you up out of this sleepwalking state. So I think that's really kind of what it's about, is a man being forced to wake up from a nightmare, and he's struggling to do that because the nightmare's still around him. And he's like, well, at least let me do nothing. If I have to exist in this world, I just want to do nothing and not have consequences. And then consequences are thrust upon him. And so it's him trying to come to terms with that without being able to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Maniac Clown says Pumpy the Chicken, as my friends and I called it when we watched some of this. Going back to that chicken scene. But
yeah. Which is in my list of schlock. That's the other thing, like, is like what was meant to be provocative, but because it's 30, 40 years later, it's just silly.
Right.
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 Like, I bet when they first saw that chicken scene, the people were just horrified, and it was gross, but it was also hilarious.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think the chicken plays back into the industrialization. Again, the most underplayed character in this is Bill, is the dad, because I think he gives us the whole setup. He says, I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's basically stated. This place was nice once. Like I plumbed up all these houses, but then all of this stuff moved in, and then like the train goes by while he's trying to talk, meaning that like all of this industrialized working has come in. When we see Henry's window, right, it's just bricks on the other side. Yep. And I think the chickens, Pumpy the chicken, that's part of industrialization.
Thank you, Maniac Clown.
Right? Yeah. It's been dubbed Pumpy the chicken.
Yeah.
That's part of that like industrialization, right? Like while I guess maybe in real life, like we make chickens bigger and bigger and bigger than they were. In this, they're making them smaller, more convenient, more bite-sized, easier to manage, right? A chicken for every member of the family, right? You can see how that's maybe packaged and sold in that way.
Well, and it feels also new to the world because Henry,
it's very novel to him.
Yeah, but he's like, I cut it like a regular chicken, right? And he's like, and then Bill's like, yeah, you cut it like a regular chicken, which implies that it's some newfangled, small chicken that has weird goo in it. But again, it's that processed food, that Franken food, right? Like,
right.
Everything is like industrialized to the nth degree, and at what point in time do you revolt from that? Before we get out of schlock, I want to ask you, do you think the woman in the radiator is a woman in the radiator or part of his subconscious, an id maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
what?
I think it's like a dream within a dream type thing. I think it's him daydreaming. I think it's that part of that non-linear dream logic,
Mhm.
like where something can just happen out of nowhere. Same thing with the Eraserhead scene, right? That's part of
Right.
it starts off as the woman in the radiator sequence, but then it goes off into a whole other kind of story for a bit, and then it pops back.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see. Mark says it looks like a chicken, but it is poison, almost like our industrial ass food. It looks like something, but it's really not. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes back to then you have the child, right? If we can call it that, whatever that mutant thing was.
Yeah, it looks like a child,
Right.
but it's not actually a child.
Yeah, it's something else. What's also interesting though is watching this film, he kills his kid. Spoiler alert,
Yeah.
right?
Well, see, Daniel says male terror of fatherhood, settling down, monogamy, the burden of responsibility, expectation of being a provider, etc. Henry's forced to become a dreamer to escape the situation he's stuck in. And he also is maybe forced to become an infanticider, whatever that would be called, right? And I saw
Is
that
that a beverage you drink in the fall?
infanticider, yeah. He I saw and I never even thought of this, but that's like the only like true action he takes
I
in the
mean,
movie.
he tries to he take its temperature once, he does a couple minor things, but yeah, that's the main action.
But I think you're right with he's sleepwalking through life, right?
Hmm.
He takes a temperature because, well, that's what you're supposed to do,
Right.
when the baby's sick.
Hmm. Which is
Uh,
interesting. It's just so weird because the mother pretty much abandoned the husband and the child.
mhm.
The neighbor clearly doesn't want to have anything to do with the child. The grandparents aren't there. It's just Henry and it. And the creature does nothing wrong, right? Like it's just crying. It's just trying to exist like everything else in this world. And yet when he does kill it, I don't feel good or bad about it. It's just like, well, yeah, that's what's going to happen,
Well,
which
the
is weird,
baby's so creepy that like you
right?
don't really have an emotional attachment or a good emotional attachment to
Which
it.
is just super interesting because had it been a regular baby, what movie would have this been?
Well, it'd be a pretty pretty awful movie.
So
It
again,
would be famous for a different reason.
right, but that whole like dreamlike thing of like this isn't a real baby, this is a dream, this is a thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't justify actions, but it definitely recontextualizes them.
Filmmaker Dan says that he's had similar experiences with his in-laws. It's like a documentary. That is terrifying. So,
Uh,
do you have anything more for Schlock? You ready to
no,
move on
yeah,
to?
let's move on. Yeah,
Well, let's talk about what's bad about
okay,
this movie.
all right. So, some of the acting isn't the best. Some of it's really good. And again, that's hard to qualify because when it's a weird art house movie like this, you're like, well, are they doing that on purpose or is that bad? It's
Mhm.
slow. It's
Yeah.
strange. It's confusing. Um, but again, this is all qualified with it's a surrealist art house
Yeah.
film,
But
and
I want
there's
my hamburger.
right. So there's nothing. So everything I just said that's bad, there's actually nothing wrong with it. If that's what you're in the mood for, if that's what you want, if this is your thing, I really don't have anything bad to say about it. If it's not your thing, you're not going to like the things I just said.
Well, I will throw this out here that it's in the
Hmm.
vein of what you're saying. I do think that the dialogue in some spots is maybe objectively bad, in that not how it was delivered, just like what is being said. For like, I think that this movie was made for a visual person, not necessarily a writer.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and I will agree with you, but part of me is like, yeah, but these are weird people, and weird people talk weird.
Well, okay,
Like
I'll maybe concede to that, but I think that with this as small amount of dialogue there was, I think maybe it could have been used to pack more of a punch.
It could have been. It could have. Yeah, like you could have passed it. It could have had a slightly more elevated. Yeah, a little more poetic.
But then again, I just went on about Bill and his whole explanation that gave us what was going on.
Bill is hands down the best character. He is. His
yeah.
little monologue. You see my knees?
And just talk about his arm.
Yeah.
Which maybe means some other things don't work, which is why his wife is
again
weird with the chicken.
Yeah, it's this movie. There's enough stuff in every scene that you can go down 1,000 rabbit holes, and none of them are probably incorrect, and none of them are probably correct, which is part of the fun of a movie like this. Of like, but what about this? Oh, but what about this? So that's really what I have for bad. It's not a lot. Like, if you like this sort of film, it's not bad, and if you don't, then don't watch it.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, my bad is basically like what you said. It's a filmmaker's film. It's a film that I think impresses other people who want to make stuff like that. It's kind of like those I guess I don't want to say any names because I don't want to like talk bad about them, but those bands that are like guitar driven, like it's just like a drummer and 2 guitar players, and the band basically exists for them to like wank around and just show off like how good they are at playing guitar. And so it's music for other guitar players.
Right. Yeah.
But like if you're a casual listener, it's just like every song sounds the same.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't like that the ending, like we were able to predict the ending, that like you just know that this is going to have an ending where it just like goes to black or something, and it's like the end, like it's credits, and you're going to be left going, what happened? You could just see that coming a mile away. And I don't think that's subversive.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll agree with you there.
And my final bad would be that, and I'll contradict this in the good, but I think that with some of the imagery, because of the black and white, it was hard to tell what some things were that you were looking at. Like we kept wondering like what's in his room, and we're like, is it hair? Apparently it's dirt and plants.
Oh.
But I thought it was hair. Like I thought it was his crazy hair that he was cutting around, or the neighbor's hair or something.
Right, and it could have been any of those, and it really didn't matter. The idea that you couldn't quite tell what it is was a conversation piece, at least for the group of people we were with. We were like, this is such a weird movie. What is that there? It takes up such a prominent amount of the frame. It has to mean something. Well, it really doesn't. Right. But it got us talking. It got us immersed, right? And like, oh, look at that weird thing. Oh, what is that? Why does he have that?
Yeah. Mark has a theory from the chat. The film makes me think about the story of the picture of Dorian Gray, except Dorian in the picture has jumped out of the frame as walking among us, and everything is toxic in that world.
Yeah.
That is a perfectly cromulent theory.
Yeah, it embiggens us all.
That might be exactly what's going on, Mark.
Yeah, totally. That's a solid theory. But
moving into good, that is a good segue in that it is very picturesque.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks like
it's beautiful. Yeah,
it is literally a living painting.
Yeah,
and if anything, you should be able to take that away from the movie.
Yeah, as long as you know that there's going to be some static shots, they're real pretty to look at. So just hunker down and look away. Don't look away. Look away. Right. So you want me to ramble through my good real quick, and then we'll we'll end with you and what's
Sure.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit me.
The black and white, it looks amazing. It's framed so well. The shots are so beautiful. And for like first time, he'd done some short films, but for his first feature, there's some really cool shots. You're like, I wonder how he did that, or that's impressive.
That is number one
Mhm.
on my list. It makes me want to make a black and white film
100%.
because and let me preface it, a high contrast black and white film.
Yes.
Where like
Yep.
the blacks are just you can't see anything.
Yeah.
What it reminded me of was so in the old Batman TV series,
Mhm.
towards the end of it, they ran out of money. So their sets just started to be like black curtains in the background, and then they'd have props around.
Right.
Like, I feel like if you were an independent filmmaker or you're starting out, you don't have the money for big lavish backgrounds or whatever, you can put in your set pieces against a black backdrop.
Yeah, just put some black flats. Yeah, totally.
And create like such an interesting look
Mhm.
and such an interesting vibe. I mean, yeah, the black and white, I did love that.
The other thing that I was reading about and agree with is the sound design in this. I thought was amazing. The just all the weird industrial, like it's almost like a musical in a way, just like using all these industrial sounds as almost as like a percussion or underlying like bed of sound that moves things forward. And then the choice of like the strange kind of classical music on the vinyl and the record player and some of the singing. It's just a really well designed movie qua sound.
Yeah. I would agree.
I thought the surreal imagery was very effective. Did I like it all? Did I understand it all? No, but that's what this movie wanted to be, and it did that really well. Right. So you can hate that, you can love that, but you can't deny that, like, yeah, that was effective. That had everyone
makes you uncomfortable.
Everyone we were watching it with were really taken aback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of what he wanted to happen. And that's again why Kubrick was screening it, because he wanted that feeling for The Shining. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the practical effects. That's my last good. The mutant kid, effectively creepy. And strangely realistic. I don't know. Like you were talking about that as we were watching it, on like its mouth movement, how it disturbed you so much because it felt real.
And the eye movement with something that I assume is like a hand puppet through the pillow, like that they're getting for something like pretty low budget, that they're getting like all of this very technical movement out of it, right? The eyes are rolling back,
and subtle.
The lips are pursing, right?
Yeah.
They're like when he's spitting out the food, and he's like, like,
yeah,
a lot of that sound design,
not the mama,
but yeah, a lot of that sound design, but being able to like push the lips together to project the food out, that's a good puppet. And I think that if we saw it in full color, we'd maybe be less impressed. And so I think that's again part of the black and white, how it gives it some charm.
Yeah,
but
and that's what I have for good. So what do you got?
Your goods were exactly my goods, like verbatim.
Nice.
So, and I guess that's why people are still talking about this movie, and that's why it's part of the Criterion collection and a movie that you need to see before you die. You got to experience Eraserhead at least once.
Even just if you know what Pushy the Chicken is. Pumpy the Chicken.
Pumpy the Chicken.
Right?
Man. So we are going to wrap it up. We are coming up on the 1 hour mark. I want to thank everybody for joining us in the chat. Man, I love it when you guys come in and pipe in, and it feels like we're not alone up here. We are going to be back next month. We love doing our holiday shows, and we were going to do My Bloody Valentine. But hey, there is a new holiday slasher coming out called Hard Eyes that is releasing on February 7th, I believe. We're going to do a live review of it on Monday, February 10th, same bat time, same bat channel. And we hope you guys
black drop.
Yeah, with our cheap black backdrop. I hope that you come and join us and give us your thoughts on the film.
Yeah.
I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been Compelled by Schlock. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next show. Bye, everybody.
Schlock.